Welcome to our evening meditation in this first week in September. We're continuing with the theme of listening. Last time we had compassionate listening and courageous listening, and this week is about deep listening. Just remind us of those first words from the Rule of Benedict. Listen carefully, my daughter, my son, to my instructions, and attend to them with the ear of your heart. This is advice from one who loves you. Welcome it and faithfully put it into practice. So this deep listening involves listening from a deep place, from a receptive place, from a caring place in ourselves. Perhaps listening beyond the words that are being spoken by someone else, discerning levels of meaning and intention. Generous listening, empathic, trusting. Deep listening, someone says, is an act of surrender because we risk being changed by what we hear. And again, it's about story. So when I really want to hear another person's story, I try to leave my preconceptions at the door and draw close to their storytelling. And there's a lot of similarities there, and we'll look at that, the parallels to contemplative practice, which we're putting aside time for tonight. So we come into our alert, attentive position, maybe just adjusting where we're sitting on the chair, trying to be upright, either closing our eyes or lowering our gaze, or looking at the image on the screen. And we're going to be paying attention to our breath, to our body, to our heart, to our mind. So notice firstly your body, the weight of it against the chair or the sofa or the ground if you're lying down. Sense and be aware of the ground supporting you. The ground, the earth bearing us up. And now take 2 deep cleansing breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And for a while, just follow that breath. Follow the path of the air, coming in through the nostrils, down the windpipe, filling the belly, belly and chest rising, and then the air allowing it to escape as you expel through the mouth. Notice the flow. Notice the movement of your own body. Notice the sound at different parts of the in-breath and the out-breath. Maybe add some counting to 4 on the in-breath, holding for 2, and then 5 on the out-breath. And while you continue to breathe deeply and slowly, with the focus taking your attention away from the mind, just do a quick scan of the body. See if there's any points. You can notice the points of contact first against the chair, and your feet against the ground. Being connected. Notice also if there's any points of stiffness or a twinge or an ache. Just notice it and maybe breathe and direct your breath to that area. And some more thoughts as you continue to breathe and to relax. Some thoughts from the colleagues of Richard Rohr, who, as I mentioned earlier, suggest the skills for deep listening have the same foundation as those for contemplation. She says, over the years, I've discovered there's a basic context that nurtures and develops this practice as a sacred art. Silence, reflection, and presence. Silence creates the space for listening to God, the space, the time to explore our relationship to the source. And this practice of being in silence nurtures our ability and capacity to listen to others. Reflection gives us access to listening and being aware of our inner voice. The practice of taking a few breaths before responding to a situation or a question. This gives time for your true wisdom to reveal itself. A slowing down, a practicing of patience. And presence is the awareness of listening to another, of connecting at the heart level. The practice of taking an ordinary activity, giving it your full attention. It might be washing your teeth, brushing your hair, walking. I think I was doing it today as I was finely chopping up the red onions. This trains your concentration and your ability to be in the present moment with someone else. So this deep listening allows us to become fully present with the person we're with. And maybe communication can even occur without words. And so as you bring your attention again back to the breath and the body, practicing that reflection, noticing any inner voice. If there is, just notice it. Being your own observer, noticing but not getting caught up in it. Instead, we listen more deeply. Asking the divine to help us to pray with our breathing, to breathe in love and peace, to breathe out any pain or sadness. In doing this, just to be aware of any emotions that we're feeling, and to let them move with our breath. So in our breathing, may our body and soul be at one with you, Lord, in harmony with you, at ease with you. And in that breathing and in that harmony, are we listening perhaps finally to the voice of God? Father Richard Rohr reminds us when we listen to the voice of God, we are given the grace to pass it on to others. He reminds us we must receive all words of God tenderly so that we can speak them to others with tenderness. If any thought feels too harsh, shaming or diminishing of ourselves or others, it is likely not the voice of God. It's simply our ego voice. But if something comes towards us with grace and can pass through us and toward others with grace, we can trust it as the voice of God. As Abraham Lincoln called it, the better angels of our nature. So there's some learning here how to recognize the positive flow and to distinguish it from the negative resistance within ourselves. And this can take years, indeed, if not a lifetime. If a voice comes from accusation and leads to accusation, it is quite simply the voice of the accuser, the literal meaning of the biblical word Satan. Shaming, accusing, blaming is simply not the language of God. But sadly, too often it is how we talk to ourselves and to one another. But if we can trust and listen to our inner divine image, our true self, we will act from our best, kindest and most inclusive self. This deeper voice of God, which we must learn to discern, to hear, and then to follow. It may sound like the voice of risk, of trust, of surrender, of destiny, of love. But remember, God never leads by guilt or shame. God leads by loving the soul at ever deeper levels, not by shaming at superficial levels. So as we go towards our silence, with this deep listening, some words from Salt of the Sound. Listen, hear that sound. Never wonder how he found you. When all around closes in, he's listening. Listen, hear him call. Let him hold you when you fall. All you've known is fading fast. He's listening. So we move to our silence and our deep listening, and use whatever method you need to assist you with that. Walking down in a staircase to a lower room to your heart center. Maybe walking through a gate in a wall into a garden. Using your breathing as we pray, breathing in love and peace, breathing out pain and sadness. Or sit and be your own observer, practice that self-awareness and reflection, noticing thoughts and letting them drift away, like a leaf on the stream or the fog and the mist in the air. So we come out of silence. Bring yourself back if you need to. Return consciously to where you're sitting. Become aware again of your body and where it's resting. Gently opening your eyes when you're ready. Maybe moving your fingers, your toes. When all around closes in, he's listening. And a prayer to close. May we listen to one another in openness and mercy. May we listen to our hearts in love and forgiveness. May we listen to our deep spirit in quietness and awe. And in this listening, may we find the wisdom to cooperate with a healing spirit, a divine spirit. We do not ask for a perfect world, but we do ask for a better world. We ask for deep listening.